chambers are committed to helping local businesses, but serving large numbers of businesses can be difficult given staff constraints. So in this upcoming webinar, learn how you can serve every business in your community with the help from GIS Planning, a world leader in online economic development solutions. Discover how interactive online tools can help you, can provide sophisticated business intelligence to your members and help them grow in their businesses, things we all like. So they'll even take it a step further and show you how this new online technology can help you promote your community to expanding businesses. And the thing that I think that caught my attention is this is something that can be utilized for chambers with tight staff that you don't require another person to facilitate. I'd like to pass the baton over to Eric and to share with us two tools that they'll walk us through. So Eric, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks to everyone who could attend today. So first I want to just start off with a kind of graphic and show a little stat. So this graphic here shows the relative contribution to the total number of businesses in the U.S. You can see that the small businesses account for 99.99% of all businesses. That's a big green triangle, and you can kind of see those little blips is the 0.01% represented by the largest corporations that are making over $250 million a year. But now we're going to talk a lot about business intelligence in this webinar, and when it comes to business intelligence, that's really flipped. It's really the largest businesses are the ones that have the access to that kind of high-quality business intelligence, and the small businesses really don't have have historically never had that access. But you know, it's been reported by there was a recent article in Inc. magazine talking about how access to business intelligence is more important for the small business owner. So, you know, so this is really a problem. And like John mentioned, last year there was a contest run by the Department of Commerce to figure out what are the best online applications to support business growth. And this was a contest that was judged by some of the foremost thinkers in the internet and online business. You know, people like Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, Tim O'Reilly from O'Reilly Media, Vince Cerf from Google, and several others. Basically looking for developers to figure out what some innovative ways to support businesses. And the first place winner of that competition was a service we developed called SizeUp. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about what this tool is and who it's trying to serve. So small business owners are typically very, very good at knowing the nuts and bolts of what it is that they do for their business. They know how to design clothes or fill cavities or build chairs or furniture. But sometimes when it comes to kind of the day-to-day aspects of running a business, they often need more help. So when it comes to getting access to business intelligence, you know, the largest corporations, they're able to hire high-priced consultants or have internal staff to get them that access to the high-quality business intelligence. But when it comes to getting that, the small business owner really can't get access because they can't afford to do that. So what we're trying to do with SizeUp is break that boundary and provide access to the high-quality business intelligence to every small business owner. So SizeUp was launched at TechCrunch Disrupts, is a major technology conference in San Francisco, and this was there's a launch competition. We were one of 30 finalists out of over 1,200 applicants. And just last fall, the Small Business Administration began using SizeUp to power their online solutions for small businesses. Here's just a screen you can kind of see very quickly how that technology is used. And I'm going to go into more detail. Here's a quote from the outgoing administrator of the Small Business Administration, just basically highlighting that market research and analysis is very critical for a small business owner, and this is especially important considering the fact that small businesses create nearly all the new net jobs in the U.S. So now I want to show you something brand new. This is a service called SizeUp for Local Business Intelligence, otherwise known as SizeUp LBI for short. And what this does is it takes the core technology of SizeUp, but allows economic development organizations and chambers of commerce to take this technology, customize it to their own service area, and and provide their own look and feel to the technology. So here's a quick thing you can see. This is the website for an economic development group in Washington County, Wisconsin, and they have used the SizeUp tool. You can see it here. And now I'm going to pause for a second so I can give you an online demonstration. Let's see. Just one moment. Get this running. Okay, so here, now we're on the website for the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And this is a benefit they've provided for their members. And this tool, you can see, is within their own website, embedded within. There are 4 features. And I'll go through all of them, and you can see how they can help small businesses in your community. The first feature is business and industry analysis. So when I access this feature, I'm about to type in my city and my industry. I'll type in my industry. I'm going to pretend here that I'm a beauty salon. And for my service area, it prompts me to enter my city. I can either choose from a list of the communities that are within the service area of the organization, or I can search by name. So here I'm going to search for Bowling Green. And now I'm prompted to enter in information about my business. So really what this is looking for is information I would know off the top of my head about my business. So I would know my annual revenue. So I'm just going to say that my revenue for my beauty salon is $150,000 a year. And what this has done now is this has now compared me to all other beauty salons in my city, my county, my metro, my state, and the nation. So I can see that I'm doing not as well as the average beauty salon in Bowling Green. Looks like I'm doing about as well as the average beauty salon in Kentucky. And beauty salons outside of Kentucky are doing quite well. I can also see this information mapped out. I can zoom out just a little bit here. So this is showing by zip code the average business annual revenue for beauty salons. So I can see where the beauty salons are doing well. In the areas in red, these are areas where beauty salons are doing quite well. So if I'm thinking about expanding or opening up, if I'm a startup and open up my first location or in a new location, I might consider these areas in red, or it might be a place that I want to target a marketing campaign. Below, I can see some considerations. So we recognize that not everyone using this kind of tools, that the small businesses using this tool might need some help figuring out how to make actionable decisions based on what they're seeing here. And we don't want them to make assumptions that aren't supported by the data. So we help them a little bit to figure out how they can use this information. We also ask if you're a startup or an established business based on what you say here. They'll give you some contextual information based on that answer. Also, there's some resources based on what report you're looking at. We can give you some other sources to get some information. So also, I can enter in my year started. So I'm going to say that my beauty salon started in 2001, and now this is mapping out. I can see all of the existing beauty salons when they started. So I can see it looks like there's an uptick, or just about after I started, when a lot of my competition entered the game. This is at the national level. I can click off the nation and the state boxes here and see what's happening at a local level. And again, it's a similar trend. You can see most of my competition has started after me, so I'm one of the longest standing members in the game. I can also enter in salary information. So I'm going to say that I pay my employees an average of $20,000 a year. Looks like I'm paying about the average for the nation, but quite a bit more than what salaries are like locally. I can also enter in information about my employees. I'm going to say that I have 5 employees, and here it looks like most beauty salons tend to employ about 4 people. So I'm a little bit larger than the average. Now, as we scroll down a little bit here, you can see SizeUp will provide some reports that even without me entering anything. So one of them here is cost effectiveness. And what this is doing is comparing my labor costs to the revenue that I'm generating. and it's saying that my cost effectiveness is a little below average. This is likely because even though my revenues production is pretty good, I'm employing more people than the average salon and paying them a little more. So my cost effectiveness is therefore a little bit lower. And another thing a lot of local businesses, serving businesses will be interested in is revenue per capita. So, weighting by population, what kind of revenue generation is there in the industry? So I can see this. I can zoom out to see this at state level or the national level. So, and I'm going to make a comparison among total revenue and revenue per capita, just so you can see. So that's at the state level. I'll zoom out a little bit further here. Takes a second to load. Okay, get that centered here so you can see the whole map. So as that's loading for the revenue per capita, the total revenue is showing up here. Now, one thing you notice when you look at total revenue, it's largely driven by population. So the most populous states, Texas and California, you can see when you're looking at the total revenue on the bottom that they're the highest. And that's going to be the case for many industries just because of the effect of population. But when you control for population size, you can also see some very interesting patterns that you wouldn't otherwise have thought of. So here, when I'm looking at revenue per capita, and this again is specific to beauty salons, I see that Colorado, there's more revenue generation in beauty salons per person than in Texas. So you can see some interesting patterns there that wouldn't be obvious otherwise. Scrolling down, I can look at local turnover. So here, this is telling me what percentage of workers I can expect will turn over the course of time. So here, I can see my turnover rate is higher than the state or the nation. So it's a little bit of a less stable industry locally, and it just means that there are costs associated with training of employees and whenever there's turnover. So something to be aware of. And there's also information about net job change. I'm going to scroll down further to look at healthcare costs. So I'm going to say that I pay an annual healthcare premium per employee of $4,500. And when I put that in, this shows me that I'm paying $451 less for healthcare per employee than the average company of my size in my state. It also tells me that I pay $9 more for healthcare per employee than the average company in my industry. So as I'm trying to save costs, this is interesting to see where how I'm comparing to the averages in my area. There's also, I can enter in information on workers' compensation. Now, I'm going to click on the summary view and scroll up here. Now, when I click on the summary, I can get a broad overview, and it's kind of a snapshot of how I'm doing and can easily gauge what my performance. And speaking of gauges, on the right-hand side, I see a list of gauges, and really what it's showing here is the green is showing that I'm performing particularly well. If it's over off to the left, and the red, that's an area where I can stand to improve. So here I can really just quickly get a sense of how I'm doing. So another thing that a business is going to want to know is where are my competitors, customers, and suppliers. So I'm going to look at this report. Here I'm going to change industry. So I'm going to say instead of a beauty salon, I'm going to be a dry cleaners, and I'll stay in Bowling Green. So what this has done now is I'm mapping out all of the dry cleaners in my area, so I can see where my competition is. But also I might sell to other businesses. So if my dry cleaners, perhaps maybe I'm serving the hotels in the area. If they're not doing their laundry on site, maybe I'm helping them out. So I can see where all those potential customers are. You see them down the list and on the map. And I also have suppliers. So if I'm a dry cleaners, I might just be getting some cleaning supplies from just a department store. So I'll look at those. So ideally, what you want to look for is an area where there's not a lot of competition, and that's what you see in red. And a lot of customers, which is in green here. So, I'm looking around on the map, and I see it looks like there's a good cluster here of customers, and I can see that there's not a lot of competition, especially compared to over here. And there's definitely some suppliers in the area that I could get my supplies without going too far. So this might be a good location if I'm looking to expand or relocate. This might really serve me well in terms of my supply chain and where my competition is. But not every business sells to other businesses. Some are B2C. They're selling to consumers. So I can map that out as well. I can look at those patterns. So I'm going to I'll look broadly at apparel. I'll zoom out a little so we can see a little better. But I can get even more detailed here. So I'll look at apparel, services, and accessories, and there's a category specifically for dry cleaning. So I'll just take a second to load there. So now I can see what those consumer expenditure patterns are in my area. And I can see here it looks like, well, there's a pretty large zip code here. I'm looking at total household spending in dry cleaning. But maybe I'm interested in what the average household is doing. So I can switch over there. And now it's actually, I'll zoom out here. Now it's actually reversed. So that large zip code there is actually low in terms of average household spending. And the average household spending is highest down low in areas here. So that's a couple of the features of SizeUp LBI. I'm going to show you another one. So businesses also need to know where the best places are to advertise. So I'm going to switch back here and I'll look at beauty salons again. So now I'm just by entering in that information, I can see the top zip codes for total revenue in the beauty salons industry. But maybe I want to look at things a little differently. I mean, I can see here that those top places are right in the center of Bowling Green. I can also see those listed on the map with the population and the revenue. But maybe I'm interested in what are the most underserved markets for beauty salons. And I can see it's no longer the zip codes in the very center. Looks like it's off to the western part of the city is where the most underserved areas are. And I can also filter this list a bit more. So I can make specifications in terms of business criteria and demographic criteria. So maybe I'm interested in looking at households with lower income. So I'm going to look at just households with at most, places where households make at most $40,000. And then I can see here that this, I'm still looking at the western areas, but some of the areas in the south of the city are filtered out. So I can look exactly at the areas that matter to me in my target market. So those are the first three features, and that's the core SizeUp technology. But special to SizeUp LBI is an enhanced demographic tool, demographic analysis tool. So I'm going to show you this. This provides information down to the census block group level. So this is very detailed information for demographics. There are three different choices for how you can look at this information. You can look around an address, within a map boundary, or for a place. So I'm going to choose to run a report for a place. I can look for a city, county, or metro. I'll stick with the city. And I'm going to choose Bowling Green again. And now I see Bowling Green on the map here. And what I can do here is I can look at a wide variety of demographic variables, and I can look for the current year, or I can also look projected out to 2018. So, if I'm a business owner, I'm interested in not just what's happening now, but what's going to be happening in a few years. And now with any one of these variables, I can map them out. So looking here, maybe I'm interested in age distribution, and I'm going to look at people aged 40 to 49 and see where they are. Maybe these are kind of the typical age of the executive population. So I'm looking here, and I can see where those people are located. Here I'm looking at the total number of people aged 40 to 49. But maybe I'm interested in where the highest percentages of those people are. So here, if I change that information, I can see things switch. So here, that zip code that had the most people aged 40 to 49, as a percentage of the population, it's actually lower. So here, these are areas where that percentage is higher. So I can look at this information a different way. Maybe I can make my own boundary. So I'm going to create a boundary that's kind of based on the contours of the highways here. And now I'm going to look at a consumer expenditures report. So now the report's loading. So here, this is a consumer expenditures report specific to the shape that I've drawn. So this is my own custom region showing me consumer expenditure information. And again, I can map this out. So I can see here are the averages and the totals for consumer expenditures for households. I can map this out again. Here I'm looking at women's apparel. There's the totals, and I can switch to averages. I can also run reports around an address. So here I'm going to enter in an address. And I can run a report around that address in terms of a distance or a drive time. So I'm going to choose drive time. I'll say I'm interested in learning what's around my address within 10 minutes drive time. And here, this time I'll look at a labor force report. So here you can see the squiggly shape. That's a little bit of a contour shape because of the varying drive times based on what the road conditions are like. So I can look down here. All this information now is specific to that drive time around that shape, around that address. I can look at information about total establishments, businesses by establishment type. I can also look at employees. So here, maybe I'll look at the sales occupations. So this is showing me now where people in sales are located. And again, you can see this is showing me that there's one particular zip code that has a lot of people, so it's probably going to have a lot of salespeople. But again, I can also look in terms of percentage. So that's an overview of SizeUp for Local Business Intelligence. Again, this is a tool using the core technology from SizeUp, but providing it customized to a service area and custom branded to your look and feel of an organization's website. So that's a quick look at that site, and I'm going to turn it over to Anatalia.
And before we, and thank you, Eric, and before we move on to Anatalia's presentation, I just want to remind everyone that we'll facilitate questions at the end, and as questions, or if you have a question or as questions come up, on your dashboard there's a questions tab. So simply go ahead and type it in and send it to me, and we'll get to it once we finish up here with Anatalia's part. So again, send your questions in and we'll facilitate them at the end.
Thanks. Eric does a terrific job. So one thing that we know that a lot of chambers of commerce and economic development organizations are interested in is figuring out how they can be most effective at marketing their communities to grow their economies. And we did some research that came out recently in a book called Economic Development Marketing, and I'm going to share just a little bit of that information with you, although we're certainly going to hit some of the key aspects. So we asked the question, what marketing works best in terms of marketing strategies? And what the results of this national survey, which included chambers of commerce and economic development organizations and others focused on growing their local economies, is that websites are the most effective marketing strategy, followed by out-of-town meetings with businesses, site selection and FAM tours, public relations, and so on. So we also looked at this issue of, how are people allocating their funds? And in fact, websites are not only the most effective marketing strategy, it's also getting the largest budget allocation of the total pie of market budget. So if the websites were working well, then it begs the question, what on websites are important for communities to show to facilitate investment in their area so that businesses can make decisions about where it's best for them to locate? And these are what were showed up in the survey as the most valuable website features. You can see at the top, land sites, buildings, inventory, followed by labor force, demographic reports, infrastructure maps, and so on. What we're going to show you today is actually technology that has all of the features shown in red. So it covers many of the most important website features for chambers and economic development organizations. And this technology was something that launched in 1998 in a community outside of San Francisco, but it's grown, and now these are some locations of where this technology has been implemented. So it's really happening almost all over the country, and even outside of the United States. Now, why is this happening, and why is it important? Well, we also conducted a survey of site selection consultants and corporate real estate professionals. And what we wanted to understand is, when were they making contact with economic development organizations and chambers in terms of their people and their website? So what you can see in blue, in the blue line, is when they actually reach out and make a phone call, or they send an email, or they make personal contact with someone. And red is when they contact the website, or they use the website. And this is divided up across the different phases of site selection analysis. You can see when they're developing a long list that providing the information that they need provides the communities actually 33% advantage for economic development organizations with the required website content. So another reason this is important is because it shows that communities are getting evaluated and eliminated before they even knew they were being considered. So having the right information on your website can result in making, creating a better opportunity to make the long list or the short list. So I'm going to show you an example. I showed you before that this technology is all across the country. I don't want to be too biased toward any location, so I'm just going to show you an example site, although I'm happy to point you to others in the future. So here's the technology, and this is what can fit within an economic development or chamber of commerce website, so that a business that's thinking about locating in your community can say, okay, well, I need to find a place for my business. So I'm going to search for a property within 5,000 and 10,000 square feet of space, and I need it for an office location. So I'm going to search. And you can see it brings back a variety of different office locations. I swipe across like I'm using an iPad or an iPhone, and these are all buildings that match what I'm looking for. I'm going to drill down into this one, 300 Airborne Parkway. And now I'm taking a look at this location, zoomed me in on the map. There's some information for me on the report, but I'm going to take a virtual tour. I'm going to take a look. Without ever being in this community, I'm actually able to go and see what it looks like. Move my guy over a little bit. So here's the building, and I can literally just drive around virtually to see what it's like. This gives me an understanding of access, especially if I have to have trucks unloading or issues like that. And of course, what you want to do is you want to reduce the amount of friction there is so that businesses can make a decision to invest in your community as quickly as possible. And so here's all sorts of contact information of someone who can actually do the deal. The second thing that's going to be important to any business is figuring out, well, can my business be successful there? Let me look at the labor force. So these are, I'm going to have to hire a number of different types of employees. You can see most of the businesses in the area are small businesses. I can see businesses by establishment type or employees by establishment type. So there may be a few businesses, but perhaps they employ a lot of employees. And also employees by occupation, because it's very likely any company is going to have to hire some executives, some salespeople, some admin. And you can see what the composition is in the community. We can also look at basic demographics. So here you can see information, and all of this information is current year, because what we know is that businesses aren't going to make a $50,000 decision, let alone a $50 million decision based on old data. So all of this information is current year, and it's also customizable. So let's say that you wanted to figure out, well, what are the demographics within 35 minutes, or specifically around this property, right? It's not a generic location. It's unique to where I would be locating my business. Now all of the information has changed. Or if I was a retail business, I could look at consumer spending. And obviously, wages is going to be an important component of what my overall costs of doing business will be. And here you can see hundreds of occupations covering pretty much everything. So that gives me some market analysis. Now I'm also going to be interested in what businesses are nearby me, because those businesses may be competitors, they may be potential customers or suppliers. And this is looking at just 1 mile around it, and it gives it to you color-coded. And you can drill down if you wanted to figure out, okay, there's wholesalers. Well, there's a whole variety of different types of wholesalers. Or if I wanted to know who those manufacturers are. And so here you can really start to see where the concentrations of these businesses are. Now I'm going to change this. I'm going to modify the report, and I'm going to do analysis within 25 miles. So let's say I'm only interested in businesses that have annual revenue of over $5 million. And I'm specifically interested only in the businesses that are engineer's office. So now where are those companies? So let's say for example that I'm an architecture firm and I'm trying to sell my services to engineering firms. Well, now I can see there's a strong concentration of them in the downtown area, but there's a decent amount out here in this area of the region. I can even see what those engineers' offices are, who they are. Show you another thing to do where you can do analysis is I'm going to show you some heat maps. So if I know that the type of employee that I'm going to hire is primarily, let's say, college-educated people, I'm going to select bachelor's degrees. Where are the people with bachelor's degrees? Well, this is good news. A lot of them are nearby, and that means a shorter commute for them, and hopefully that results in more productive employees. But if I'm an engineering firm, or let me see what if those types of employees are nearby. So I'm going to select architecture and engineering, and in fact, still, there's a strong concentration of those employees just north of the business. Now I'm going to change that to look at it as percentage, because obviously it's very important for us to know where the highest quantity are, but we can look at it a different way. We'll say, oh, well, this is just an area that has a large population, but there's a very strong concentration of these types of employees to the west. So I'm going to clear that information. Another thing that's going to be important to me is to figure out some of the other types of geographic issues. So I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to start adding some local layers. So maybe what is important to me is I'm looking for economic incentives. Am I near an enterprise zone? Well, in the case of this property, no. The enterprise zones are located farther to the west. Or maybe what's also important to me is I know a lot of my employees are going to use public transportation. How far of a walk is it going to be for them? And I can view a legend that shows what those times are. So these are some examples of things that can be done where instead of having to go down to City Hall or take weeks to get information, you can now get all of this information in a matter of moments. I'll show one last thing, which is the ability to compare. And you can compare, let's say, in this case, Buffalo. And let's say we're also thinking about locating in another community. I'll put in you can compare locations. You can also compare addresses. Maybe there's 2 locations within that community that you're considering. So this gives you a side-by-side comparison across a variety of different characteristics. It'll help you better understand what's available and why you should invest there. This is a way to help businesses convince themselves of why they should locate in your community. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Well, beautiful. Thank you, Anatolio. Thank you, Eric. And so as I mentioned previously, if you've got a question, go ahead on your GoToMeeting on your dashboard. You'll see that there's a questions tab down toward the bottom, and there's a little plus sign. And if you expand that, it'll give you space to type that in and send it in. So go ahead and do that now. We have a couple questions. First one coming from me. It's like, where does this data come from, and are we limited to the industries that are represented?
So the I'm not sure if that was a question specifically for SizeUp or for the GIS Planning Zoom Prospector technology. The data comes from a variety of different locations. Specifically, I mean, Eric showed just a few industries, but basically we covered 93% of all businesses in the U.S. So if your chamber members are in any of the typical or traditional industries, it's covered. I know he showed some ones that are retail or service focused, but it could be for office, retail, or manufacturing, anything really. Why don't I show you a little bit more about, and I'm going to switch over to Eric to talk a little bit more about the data.
Okay. So let's see. I think we should be able to see my screen, and we can just take a look here.
It's a little tough to hear you, Eric.
Okay, I'll make sure to speak up.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, the SizeUp data comes from hundreds of public and private data sources, and I'll just can give you a quick sense of where it's coming from. We have the industry information. You can see it comes from things like IRS records, county courthouse filings, annual reports, and this is for over 14 million businesses. But there's also a lot of demographic information that comes from things like the census, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Patent Office, many different sources of this. So it's things that are crunched all together to build the data sources we have and combine it all into the mix you see.
There was a relevant question that came in, Eric, that I want to jump in right here. And the question is, what is the smallest size community that data would be available for?
The smallest size community that data would be available for. So when you are looking at, we cover communities across the country, down to the very rural areas, we have demographic information and business data across the country for even very small areas. When we're looking at the business data, I should point out that we need to be able to benchmark industries. So we have we cover 93% of all businesses within thousands of industries, but there are certain industries that have very few businesses nationwide. Things like radon measurement, and there's some other industries that are pretty obscure that aren't present in most communities. So if you are searching for information on, not every industry is covered, but you should be able to find information for every community.
Yes, and for the GIS Planning Zoom Prospector technology, we cover the whole gamut of communities that are using this type of technology, from the largest states in the U.S. and really the largest cities in the U.S. to small and rural communities. We have some communities that we serve that are about 5,000 people.
And who are some of the chambers today that are using the site selection technology?
Wow, there are too many for me to answer. If you go to gisplanning.com, there's a map, and you can see a lot of the chambers that are using it. With the upcoming annual conference that you guys are hosting is in Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City is one of the chambers that's using our technology on the site selection side. And you saw the Bowling Green chamber, which is using it for local business assistance, helping their members.
Now, are you guys going to be in Oklahoma City?
We will be. We'll be speaking there, and we'll also have a booth in the exhibit hall. Great.
So again, just as questions, as you guys have other things either we're not able to address here or able to follow up, they'll be there at our convention. So that's good news. That's good news. There's another question that came in. Certainly, bottom line, brass tacks, guys. How much does the software cost, and how would it be integrated with the current website?
So the two different services are very different. The SizeUp LBI product has a lower investment than the site selection technology. And the site selection technology, it really ranges a lot. It's really hard to answer that without knowing the size of the community and kind of what the geographic range is. It's more for larger places and less for smaller communities. With the SizeUp LBI, it's very accessible. I can't imagine there's a chamber anywhere that couldn't afford the few $1,000s that it costs. It's basically about the same budget as it would be for a moderately robust desktop software. So we're just talking about, basically a few to several $1,000s.
Few to several, so 3 to 5?
It's approximate. I mean, pretty much almost everybody can be covered under $5,000 unless they're a very large community.
Sure. But again, it helps to give some type of pulse check of some parameters. That's good.
Yeah, so basically almost any community I can think of, unless they're humongous, is going to be, $4,000 something.
Okay. So is the SizeUp LBI and Zoom Prospector, are those services provided only to chambers, or is that also directed to anyone?
So primarily what we're seeing is it's economic development organizations and chambers of commerce that are using it. I mean, if there are other organizations that are interested in growing their local economies, of course, we want to make the tool available so that we can serve as many local businesses as possible. But primarily, those are two of the main users of the SizeUp LBI technology. I also didn't answer the second half of your previous question, which is how does this technology work and where does it go? And any chamber can take this technology and embed it within their existing website, or they can use it and create what's called a microsite. So they could have a standalone website with its own unique URL or website address so that people can get directly to the service.
Okay, that's nice. And before I forget, we'll be recording. We're recording the webinar presentation here. But Anatoly, is it all right as well to share the slides that you presented?
Sure, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, appreciate that before I forget that. And what are some of the key advantages, do you think, of having the market research on the internet, whether it's to attract businesses or I'm guessing even to retain businesses as well within the community?
So I think that's really part of a larger trend. For anybody who is on the webinar, when you think about where you go when you're doing research and what you use to make your business decisions or even personal decisions, the trend is people are going to the internet. And when they have difficulty getting information, they just move on. And that's part of what we're seeing with the research about the corporate real estate professionals. As it's difficult for them to get information, they're busy. They're looking for places that are easy to do business. And just more and more where businesses are going to do their research is online. And communities are providing this level of analysis and service. And the communities that don't provide this are certainly going to be at a competitive disadvantage in helping their local businesses and also for attracting investment from outside of their communities.
Well, it certainly seems that the ability to expedite, very powerful information quickly, you guys have made available and have brought that together in this platform, which is impressive. And so I like to think, kind of pushing it out a bit, other applications in which maybe, I don't know, say non-traditional, thinking about how else this tool and the data that is available could be utilized for chambers. Does that make sense? Like, are there other ways that this information that we're able to pull is being used that maybe isn't, I don't know, maybe quite as more non-traditional thinking?
Well, there's also a pretty clear upside looking something like SizeUp LBI for chambers, which is, chambers are in the business of helping their members, their companies grow, and also to help their chambers grow. And this is a very nice and almost ridiculously affordable solution to provide them additional service without having to hire anybody. I mean, it's the investment of simply software. So this is a great value add to make their community and the local businesses a lot smarter. And we're seeing communities do it and organizations do it two different ways. One is they use it as a way to lure members into the chamber so that they can make it freely available to any business in their community. And it's a way of showing the businesses that the chamber is there for them and that it's helping them to make smarter decisions, in this case through data. And then we're also seeing examples where they're providing it as a member-only benefit. So you need to be a member of the chamber to access the SizeUp LBI service.
Wow.
I think both are interesting strategies, one where you open it up as a way to bring people in, and the other as making it member benefit only.
As an incentive for membership.
Yeah, that's impressive. When looking at how can you make this information, so just like on the Bowling Green Chamber website where members are able to access and actually pull data to find out the competitive advantage, marketplace, like how many, of course, as we all want to know, how many beauty parlors are in the next the 5-mile block.
Right. So this gets really to, with the SizeUp LBI tool that Eric was talking about, it just gets this issue that local businesses, small businesses have been at such a competitive disadvantage at being able to get market research because it's it's expensive, it's
Yep.
difficult to access and make sense of. And what this tool does is it puts it in their hands in a way that is easy and obvious, and with which they can make better decisions about how they run and grow their own business.
And without
And here's a question that's come in about the Zoom Prospector. Can you add local layers of GIS data from your city and county GIS department for those of us who are sophisticated and are connecting with them?
You know, a lot of planning departments and public work offices at the city or county level, they've got this amazing wealth of information that businesses can use to make decisions about investing in a community. And unfortunately, it sits on somebody's desktop or doesn't make its way onto the internet so that lots of businesses can benefit from it. With the Zoom Prospector technology, the answer is yes. You can take local information such as what the zoning is, or where the local incentive areas are, or where the local transit is. All of that type of information, which you can't find anywhere else on the internet, you can take that and put it on your Zoom Prospector tool.
Nice. On my end, I don't have any further questions. So as I mentioned previously, we're recording the webinar, and we'll be posting it to our website. We'll be pushing it out. I'll send it to everyone that signed up, as well as posting it to acce.org. In addition, I'll send you the slides as well. What else, guys? Closing, what else? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, for those who have interest in this technology, we customize it for every community. Each community is unique, although they often have similar challenges and opportunities. So anybody who's interested in kind of what it would take to invest in these types of technologies for their communities, we're happy to give you specific information.
Okay. Well, anything else for the good of the order, guys?
I think the last thing is just we want to thank all of the chambers of commerce. They're doing such great work helping the businesses in their communities succeed, especially because those primarily small and medium-sized businesses are the ones that are creating all of the net new jobs and helping us across the whole country revitalize our economy.
Yeah, and tying into the business retention expansion initiatives, let alone the recruitment. I think we can all see kind of the obvious and the power of the data that you guys are making available. So, you know, from all of us, you know, so thank you everyone who joined us today. And again, Anatalio and Eric, thanks for doing what you guys do and being part of the tribe here and helping the chambers and communities be as prosperous and as healthy.